I don't want to be on the news, dog.
Well, it's a little late for that, dog. Now, if there's anything else you want to tell.
In 2005, David Schumacher was charged with a sexual offense from his sting on To Catch a Predator. However, lately, he accumulated over 12 charges, including a charge in connection with a stabbing, robbery, and grand theft auto of a motor vehicle. He then received felony aggravated assault charges, which landed him 4 years and 7 months in jail. Today, we're going to be looking at the little things he does during his interaction with Chris Hansen. With his subtle movements, we may be able to find out more about what he may be thinking or feeling. To Catch a Predator is a popular show that involves a decoy that predators message. After some mutual texts, predators come to a sting house set up by the crew, and this is where they interact with the host, Chris Hansen. The footage from this first segment doesn't have audio, which I apologize for. Anyway, let's take a look at the footage.
Knock, knock.
Hey, come on in!
As he's walking to the house, we can see he looks around multiple times and is walking very quickly. Remember, he knows that the girl he's talking to is underage, so he's looking around to see if anyone is onto him, and his fast walking speed means that he does not want to be seen in the public eye very long. These things lead me to believe that he is very distressed when walking into the house, as he puffs his shirt to try and cool down. However, it may have just been a hot day outside. Also, you'll come to find that he will quickly calm down as he makes himself at home.
I got my sister and some babies out in the car too, though. Where you at?
Did you bring some green?
No, we're gonna smoke some, though. We're gonna get some.
Hey, I just made some cookies, but I got chocolate on my shirt, so I'm just gonna change real fast.
All right.
I'll be right out.
Alright.
You can try one of my cookies, they're so good.
Did you make them?
Yeah, I made them myself.
Alright, I eat one. I like chocolate chip.
He keeps his fast walk as he's trying to distance himself as far away from the outside of the house he can, so he makes his way straight into the living room. The topic of smoking weed comes up, and he states that he does not possess any, but when he does get some, they'll smoke it together. One thing to point out is how quickly his attitude has changed since leaving his car. Whenever he was outside, his movements were very stiff and quick, but since he's entered the house, his movements have been more fluid. However, his general lack of table manners show though whenever he turns on the TV without permission and eats the cookies over the carpet without a plate or napkin. These social problems will not matter, however, as things are about to change.
Cookies are good munchies.
Yeah, you ain't telling me your parents are rich. What do they do for a living?
Hey, why don't you have a seat right over there?
How you doing?
Good, how are you? What's happening?
Good.
Your hands up where I can see.
What's going on?
You tell me what's going on.
As we can see, he paces around the room for a little bit and asks what the decoy's parents do for a living, trying to start conversation. And notice how this whole time he's been trying to keep a gangster persona, but it quickly shatters whenever Chris Hansen enters the room. He points at Chris to acknowledge him, and as he sits down, he stares at Chris to try and get a good look at him. Remember, he's trying his best to stay out of trouble, so he examines Chris to make sure he's not a threat. Chris then asks him to put his hands where he can see him. This immediately confuses David as he shakes his head and puts his eyebrows down. This is a non-verbal gesture to communicate that he is feeling confused.
You a dad or something?
What are you doing here?
I'm David. How you doing?
David, I'm Chris. Nice to see you. How's everything?
Good. Chilling. Birthday party.
When Chris Hansen asks him what he thinks is going on, he looks around the room and raises his eyebrows. This is a subtle but aggressive gesture to let Chris know that he does not want him there. He then asks Chris if he is the decoy's dad, in a way to try and gain clarity over the situation. He would rather the father be there than a law enforcement officer. Then there's an attempt to try and formally introduce himself. He probably thought that what he had just done was not a good impression, so he's going to try and get off on the right foot, offering to shake Chris's hand. Chris then asks him about why he's there. He answers that he's just chilling and mentions a birthday party. These are very vague details about his presence. This is a subtle attempt to try and not raise any suspicions about what he's doing. But since these details are so vague, more questions are needed to be asked.
So the girl here was going to go with you to the birthday party.
Who are you?
I'll get to that in a minute.
All right.
So what are you doing in this house?
I asked the girl, did she want to go to the birthday party?
Whenever Chris mentions that he wanted to bring the decoy to the party, He asks who Chris Hansen is. He's only asking this because he may think that Chris Hansen is an obstacle for what he's trying to achieve. And also, he's trying to make sure that he's nothing more than her father, because he's not trying to get arrested. Chris Hansen then states that they will get to the point later in the conversation, and we see David look down and nod his head. This motion indicates that David is unsatisfied with the answer he's just heard. Since Chris Hansen is preventing him from what he wants to do, he grows angrier. We can see this anger peek through whenever Chris Hansen mentions the birthday party again. Whenever David answers that he was going to drive her to the birthday party, he raises his eyebrows and looks around. This is yet again another subtle gesture to show his dissatisfaction. This is a non-verbal way of saying, we were obviously just talking about that. From what we've gathered from this conversation, David has little to no respect for Chris Hansen.
Who were you here to pick up? What's your date's name for the party?
B.
B. And how old is B?
I don't know. She didn't really tell me.
I need you to keep your hands up where I can see them.
Don't be scared, dude. I just got a cigarette. Don't be scared, dude. Are you?
I'm not.
Chris Hansen asks him some information about the decoy, including her name and age. He once again gives very vague answers to try and fly under the radar. Whenever asked about her age, he said, "She didn't really tell me." This is a lie. In the chat logs, there were multiple times that an age was mentioned, which was 14. Once again, choosing to lie in this situation would not be the best move, and giving vague answers only raises suspicion about his true intentions. Chris Hansen once again asked him to keep his hands visible, and David repeats the response, "Don't be scared, dude." He is attempting to de-escalate the situation because he notices that tensions are rising. However, he still remains slightly aggressive when looking at Chris and saying, "Don't be scared, dude." His raised eyebrows convey the message that he does not respect Chris in the slightest, because remember, he's trying to keep a gangster persona.
Scared.
You seem like law enforcement. I happen to know law enforcement.
You
when
do
I see
law
one.
enforcement, yeah.
I happen to know law enforcement when I see them.
You do. So you're an expert in this area.
No, I'm just saying you come off as law enforcement.
Really?
So
You know how you come off?
how's that?
Somebody who's very nervous.
David asks Chris Hansen if he's law enforcement. He then repeats that he happens to know law enforcement whenever he sees one. It's at this point his suspicion has risen to the point where he needs some kind of clarity over the situation, and Chris Hansen immediately notices this, stating that David looks very nervous. Once again, David's attempting to gain as much information he can about this interaction so that he can be prepared in case things happen.
Somebody who's very nervous. Somebody who came over here to have sex with a 14-year-old girl.
14-year-old.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
21. Do you see an issue with a 21-year-old coming over to visit a 14-year-old?
I didn't really know she was 14.
She told you.
Before Chris Hansen mentions the decoy's age, David looks away and points in response to the nervous comment. Once again, we have another sign that he does not respect Chris Hansen. Him nodding and looking away in this manner shows that he's not satisfied with the comments he's saying. However, this changes whenever Chris Hansen mentions that the girl is 14. It's a frankly hilarious reaction, as we can see that he's pretending that he doesn't know how old she is. He puts his eyebrows down and squints as a reaction. This is a common reaction whenever something may be disgusting. Remember, he's trying to save his case, so he's pretending that 14 would be a disgusting age for him. However, this would not help his situation at all, because he's in the Sting house. He plays the "I don't know" card again, which fails because Chris has the chat logs in his hand. By the way, if you enjoyed the video so far, be sure to subscribe. I make these videos very often, and I'm sure you would enjoy them.
A 14-year-old?
I didn't really know she was 14.
She told you.
We were in a role-playing chat room.
Have you ever given or got head? Do you need a teacher? Are you sexy naked? Have you ever played with yourself? You gonna put my in your mouth?
Man, I like
Because I like that, I'll teach you.
And you trying to say?
I'm trying to say it makes it look like
Yeah.
you came here
I didn't come here. I can't
to
pick
have
her up.
sex with an underage girl.
Whenever Chris Hansen reads the chat logs, he looks away as a way of showing disdain for what Chris is reading. This is because he wants to separate himself from what he's sent, which is an attempt to make himself look better. Chris Hansen read out multiple things that immediately convict David of his intentions. When trying to come up with an excuse, he is unable, because the evidence is stacked very highly against him.
We were in a role-playing chat room, dude.
And what role were you playing exactly here?
People play roles, man. Anytime, never ask role-playing. People just talk.
Watch porno.
And
You got pornos.
I'm an adult.
Yes, but the girl you were talking to was not.
Well, I didn't know that, dude.
He mentions the excuse that they were just role-playing in a chat room online. However, this does not excuse the fact that he is sitting in the Stain house trying to physically meet up with the 14-year-old girl. He mentions that people just talk in the chat rooms, which is an attempt to downplay what messages he sent.
And your poor sister's waiting outside with 2 babies in the car?
Yeah. So
because you had to come over here and have sex with a 14-year-old?
I didn't come over here to have sex.
Why would you put that sister of yours
I didn't
in that
come over
position?
here to have sex. I come over here to get the girl and go to the party.
He lies about his intentions of showing up to the Stain house by saying he was just going to pick her up. This is probably true, but that would have led him likely engaging in activities with a minor, since the online conversation was very sex-oriented. We can also observe that he has a general distaste for all people around him, as his sister is currently waiting in the car with 2 babies.
My God, dude. Is this some kind of hold up, man? You got a warrant? Because, I mean, if the girl don't want to come and if you got a problem...
A warrant? What are you, a defense lawyer now?
I'm saying, man, you don't got no cause to hold me. I got no problem sitting here to talk to you.
Right, okay.
Who are you?
I'm Chris Hansen with Dateline NBC, and we're doing a story
You do
on
look kind of familiar.
David is seen stretching, likely to remove some of the stress he's gotten himself into. And he asked if this whole operation was a setup. He states that he has no problem talking to Chris Hansen as an attempt to show that he isn't nervous, and he's confident that the reason he's there was not for sex. He's trying to paint the best picture of himself he can.
who try to meet kids on the internet.
Hey man, I don't want to be on the news. You feel me?
We are filming.
I don't want to be on the news, dog.
Well, it's a little late for that, dog. Now, if there's anything else you want to tell me.
We can see him try and put his clothes on over his head to try and hide his identity. However, the damage had already been done.
All I gotta say is, ain't nothing going on here, dude. Nothing funny going on here.
Nothing funny going on.
No, if the girl's really 14, then I ain't gonna. But
She told you she was 14.
we were in a role-playing chat room, dude.
You know how many times I hear that?
No, I was in a role-playing chat room, dude. You got the phone records? You got that? Taped conversations?
He states that nothing's going on here, trying to remove attention from the case. This fails.
Do you have that?
You know, you're not really in that much of a strong position here.
I know that, man. Listen, am I being held up here?
You're not being held up. You're free to walk out that same door you walked in.
Do y'all want to interview? Hey, how y'all doing? Okay.
You can walk out that door anytime you want.
Am I gonna be on? Is the cops out there?
I can't speak to that.
How y'all doing? NBC?
NBC.
NBC. And you're
Chris Hansen.
All right, listen.
Dateline NBC.
Let me explain something to NBC for a second here.
Chris Hansen stated multiple times that he was free to leave whenever he wanted, but David is very suspicious that there's cops outside, so he chooses to stay inside, as he'd rather sacrifice his reputation than talk to the authorities. And now we get to hear his public reasoning.
I don't know what kind of rap y'all got on people, but maybe y'all get the whole story, because this girl is in a role-playing chat room, and if she wants to play like she's 14, hey, whatever. But on the phone, the girl told me something different.
Really?
None of what he said was true. Multiple times in the sexually charged conversations did the topic of age come up. He knows that she is 14, but is trying to put her in the wrong for being in the chat room in the first place, diverting the blame.
So, I mean...
And you expect me to believe that?
Yeah, you don't got to believe it. You don't got to. I'm not trying to convince you, or these cameramen, or anybody else.
Who are you trying to convince?
Nobody, buddy.
Yourself?
Is the police out there? Let me know.
Again, I'm just doing a story.
Whose house is this? Can I smoke this shit
No,
right
you
now?
can't smoke in this one.
I don't think so.
You can smoke outside.
Finally, he leaves the house after he finds out he can't smoke a cigarette inside, showing a lack of table manners. He's then promptly arrested and charged with the sex offense. Moral of the story? Don't be a pedophile. Thanks for watching, and let me know if there's anything specific you might want me to cover in the future.